Welcome to PatsCast. The Patriots win 27-14 over the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. Short rest, short week, and the Patriots once again take care of business. And we all expected a victory, right? They are going against the lowly New York Jets, but it's worth noting they were 12.5-point favorites, which is a wide margin, and the Patriots still covered with a 13-point victory. And look, we've said this, I think, 3 weeks in a row now. Another breakout game for Travion Henderson. A hat trick, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. Really a tremendous game overall from Henderson. Rushed the ball 19 times for 62 yards and also gathered up 31 yards in 5 receptions. Really an impressive game overall for Henderson, taking a step up and showing that he can continue to fill that void with Ramondre Stevenson out. And we still don't really even know what this toe injury is to Ramondre, and if it's turf toe, that could be a real problem. And luckily, the Patriots do have a mini bye here, 10 days rest before they go on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. But who would have thought this team would be 9-2 after, struggling a little bit in the preseason, all the growing pains after the regular season started, not seeing Henderson and guys like Kyle Williams make an impact right away, and all the rookies are contributing, right? Of course, Henderson had a terrific game. Kyle Williams didn't do much today, but had that big touchdown last week. And Will Campbell continues to be Mr. Reliable there at left tackle. Really tremendous game for him, holding down the fort on the left side of the offensive line. But Travion Henderson leads the story here today. I mean, 2 7-yard runs for a touchdown, receiving touchdown, and I think what was most important from him, and look, it's not like he was averaging a little over 3 yards a carry, so it's not like it was a tremendous leap, but we saw something from him this week that we didn't even see 4 days ago on the road against the Bucs. And my issue with Henderson, he's not the most agile running back, right? He is run straight, hopefully get an opening, and with his burst and his acceleration, he can get to the end zone before anyone else can tackle him, and that's just his game. We saw a little something different, and yes, he's not the most shifty running back out there, but, he has an unusual frame. He's a little bit top-heavy, and because of that, when he puts his shoulder down, he can generate quite a bit of power for his size, and it wasn't just the running the football, right? His pass blocking looked a lot better today, picking up the blitz. Just a tremendous game from him overall, and being kind of a guy that can be there as a reliable pass catcher, as a check down guy. Drake Maye, to his credit, we here at PatsCast, we love a good check down, take what the defense gives you, and Travion Henderson was that guy, and Drake Maye made the right decisions to dump the ball off to him quite a bit throughout today's game. That's why he had the 5 catches, plus the touchdown with the breakdown and coverage there. But really great game from him overall. The vision, the acceleration, the patience, letting things open up in front of him, and of course the toughness. I think we saw it with that first touchdown where, he was nearly tackled for a loss and then found an opening lane, was about 5 yards, 6 yards short of the end zone, and then really powered his way through with the help of his offensive line behind him and added an extra 6 yards to the play to get his first touchdown of the game. He's kind of now the centerpiece of the offense. Now, I think we need to slow down a little bit on this. Is Ramondre going to lose his job? Who's going to be the starter? Is Henderson going to be the every down back? No, I don't think he ever should be. Even the greatest running backs in the NFL, there's still a committee there. And you got to hope that Ramondre Stevenson can be back on the field 10 days from now when they go on the road to Cincinnati, because I don't think this is sustainable. Again, Henderson, outside of the big runs, still, he's fighting a lot more. I loved him lowering his shoulder and doing all that today. Great pass catcher. The pass blocking is getting a lot better, but you can't rely on him each down, right? And they ended up getting Dearness Johnson some carries there in the second half just to give Henderson a little bit more time. And look, you didn't have Terrell Jennings out there, which, he's kind of the reliable guy between the tackles with Ramondre out. He went out early in the game last week, and it's kind of slim pickings there between Henderson and Johnson, and you don't really have that shifty running back, unfortunately. And I don't think TreVeyon Henderson's ever going to be that guy. Maybe he'll be the starter. Like, I'm fine if he's the starting running back and he gets the first few reps out there. But overall, you're going to need more of a committee there at running back. That's what Mike Vrabel wants. That's what Josh McDaniels has always worked with over the years. But filling that void over the last few weeks, TreVeyon Henderson has done a good job and has gotten better week after week. And obviously had the 2 great touchdown runs last week where he ran for 60, 70 yards on both of them. But this week, it was the little stuff, the pass blocking, trying to get an extra yard or 2 between the tackles, lowering his shoulders. He's going to continue to get better at that. And I think that was a significant improvement from what we saw last week. Now, hopefully 10 days from now, you have him and Stevenson both out there and maybe Terrell Jennings is healthy and you can demote Dearness Johnson back to the practice squad. But right now, Patriots have really escaped winning all these games, particularly the last week against the Buccaneers, without their star running back out there. And Henderson is slowly becoming a star. And if you have him in fantasy football right now, he's been really racking up the points. But really a tremendous game from him overall as he continues to get better and better. You can't rely solely on that. You're going to have to get Ramondre back hopefully at some point. Especially with Antonio Gibson out the rest of the season, and hopefully Terrell Jennings as well. And then I think you're going to have a pretty good running back room the rest of the way, assuming everyone stays healthy. But Drake Maye, really another efficient, tremendous game from him. Back above 100 passer rating, had almost a 108 passer rating today, 25 of 34 passing, 281 yards through a touchdown pass, of course. TreVeyon Henderson, I thought the offensive line also looked a lot better. Only gave up 1 sack to Maye, which was Hunter Henry's fault. It wasn't the offensive lineman, but he began the night 9 for 9 on the first 100 yards that he was throwing. Looked sharp on the scripted drives, but he's even better when they get off script. When you get off of those first 2 drives, Drake Maye shows you what he's capable of. And, his ability to diagnose defenses. And I think what the most impressive thing is, he seems to have eyes on the back of his head when he's in the pocket. And I really thought this is the game where Drake may have potentially won the MVP, right? It's not always your best game. Last week was his worst game in like 8 weeks, and he leaped to number 1 in the MVP odds because the Patriots beat the Bucs. And because he had another very efficient game, didn't turn the football over, got tons of praise, of course, from Herb Street and Al Michaels throughout the evening. I think this is the game where everyone got to see him on the full stage. You have the 2 primetime games tonight in the game versus the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football, beating the Bucs last week. I think he's going to take a big leap in the betting odds after this game. And the drive that I really thought was the most impressive from Drake Maye today, it was about midway through the third quarter. He stepped up in the pocket, threw a bit of a high throw, but a throw where only he could get it to Mac Hollins, who made a nice high leaping catch. But it was the plays after that on that drive where the Patriots took a 2-score lead. The pocket broke down immediately. Like I said, eyes on the back of his head, stepped up in the pocket, hit Diggs cleanly downfield on a crossing route. Then there was the play after that where Maye was scrambling to his right. Looked like he was just going to take a yard or 2 or get back to the line of scrimmage, and the defense was starting to bail on the play because they thought Maye would run out of bounds. He slowed up and just flicked it over to Diggs, ended up running for, I believe it was a first down on that play. And then, of course, the touchdown throw to TreVeyon Henderson after that, immediately stepping up in the pocket, finding the blown coverage and just dumping it off easily to TreVeyon Henderson for a touchdown. That obviously the scramble and the fake that he was going to run out of bounds and dump it to Diggs was a great play, but it was the play before that where he just stepped up on the pocket, kind of threw it a little sidearm on the run, and just an incredible athletic play. And he continues to do that. I am just shocked by his pocket presence. The command, the maturity, and his lack of panic out there. He just makes it look so easy, and he looks so comfortable out there from the first drive of the game to the last drive of the game. We aren't seeing those early game jitters that we saw early in the year and throughout his rookie year. Had a great first drive of the game that was more scripted to tie the game at 7-7. again, these primetime performances, they don't have to be his best games. They just have to be impressive games where the commentators just fawn over the quarterback all game long. And, hearing them say that about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts and Stafford and these QBs all over the years, it's nice to hear the praise for Drake Maye. Now, I know we had Tom Brady for 20 years, but that's the kind of game, that's the kind of praise that's going to give Drake Maye the MVP, assuming the Patriots can stay consistent the rest of the way. But, a great clean game for the offense for the most part. I thought they probably left some points on the board. There was that throw to Stephon Diggs, contested catch where he came up just short of the line, and then they ended up calling it back because he didn't finish on the ground. The ball came loose a little bit. I think, they had 4th and inches there, probably would have at least got a field goal on that drive. So I do think they left some points on the board. But other than that, very clean game. Stephon Diggs, another 100-plus yard performance, 9 catches for 105 yards. And that included 2 drops. That's his 3rd 100-yard outing this season. Another really impressive game from Mack Hollins, who's not just filled that void of being the big-bodied outside receiver who can run block and do everything that you ask him to do. Since Kayshon Boutte's been injured, Mack Hollins has really stepped up and has been able to fill that role because, look, Kyle Williams, like I said, he had a great play last week, but still just not on the same page with Drake Maye. There's clearly some communication issues where either Williams is running the wrong route or he's not sitting in the zone properly. There's a lot of things going on there that hopefully he'll get better at over time. I mean, you have to forget he's only a rookie, but Mack Hollins, when he's been in that outside X wide receiver role, he's done a great job. He had 4 catches for 64 yards. As reliable of a possession receiver as you can ever have, Mack Hollins. And the type of guy that you can tell Josh McDaniels loves and was glad to bring to this team. Love to see that the offense went with the jumbo package a little bit today. You thought they might do that with Austin Hooper out, so you don't have the 2 reliable tight ends blocking. So what do? Of course, Khyiris Tonga coming in at fullback, blocking and pancaking defensive players. And then Ben Brown came in with Austin Hooper out, typically lined up on the right side to add that extra offensive lineman. And, they only ran it a few times, but very effective each time they ran it. Love the offensive rhythm, long, methodical drives. They had a 13-play drive in the first quarter to start the game that, it was kind of odd. The Jets and the Patriots, 2 possessions to start the game, 1 for each team, chewed up the entire first quarter and then some. So it ended up being a pretty quick game because of that. But that's exactly what you need to do. The Jets kind of, demoralized the Patriots a little briefly there, keeping Drake Maye on the bench, and the Patriots went back and did the exact same thing. And then the following drive after, it was an 8-play drive. So, we talk about how the Patriots don't necessarily have to play perfectly. They have a wider margin for error because of the explosive plays, but they can still do the death by 1,000 paper cuts that we saw with McDaniels and Brady over the years. So really great to see that. Andy Borregales missed his first kick in, 8-9 weeks. So he went 2 for 3. He missed a 45-yarder wide right. So not going to freak out about that as long as he makes all his kicks next game, because then it becomes a pattern, right? But also, have to say, the Patriots have been playing really clean football. They only had 2 penalties all game today. 2 penalties for 20 yards. One came on an offensive holding call. I'm not sure what the other one was. Might have also been holding. But they're getting better in the penalty department, which we've heard Mike Vrabel say he doesn't think is that important. But clearly something's going on, because I think they only had, 4 or 5 penalties last week, and they had less the week before. So Patriots continue to play clean football, and, that's how you win, right? Because I do think the Jets gave you a better showing than I think even I expected heading into this game. And, once again, the defense gives up an opening touchdown on the first drive. I think the Patriots have been scored on the first drive in all but 2 games this season, and most of them, I believe, have been touchdowns. And, when you have these teams that, script their first drive, and that tends to be all they're able to script, and I would assume that's what happened with the Jets here. They see what the Patriots struggle with on tape, right? It's often the receiver going in motion, you run some sort of misdirection. But the Jets, they basically ran a very elementary college offense the first game, the whole game, and it kind of worked the first drive where it was scripted, right? You had a nice pitch to Breece Hall. Justin Fields had a couple of nice scrambles for first downs. They were converting on third down. Then you had Fields, who ran the read option incorrectly, but still managed to get around Harold Landry on the 14th play of the drive, and that's how they got in the end zone. But pretty easy for the Patriots when you watch that offense to crack down on it. And as they've done week after week, they did it last week against Tampa, which is a far more complex offense. They were able to crack down and really limit the Jets the rest of the way. And I think what happened after that. So Jets, of course, 14-play drive with a touchdown, and then 3 and out. Then they went tempo in the second half, started to gain some traction, and then Justin Fields had a boneheaded intentional grounding call. And then finally, Patriots were playing some soft coverage, and they go into the prevent defense way too early in these games, by the way, to run some clock. And the Jets just kind of dumped it off, hit the check down, had some screens in misdirection, which we know the Patriots struggle with. And the Patriots ran a blitz and got absolutely nowhere. I think Justin Fields had 6 seconds to hold on to the football, and then Woodson slipped and Mechie was able to get into the end zone for a touchdown. That's really the only other struggle they had all game long, and it was mainly because the Patriots were playing prevent defense a little too prematurely there. But after that, the defense stopped doing that. And I hope they can continue to do that, because we saw it in the Tampa game last week. The game should have been over a lot earlier, and the Patriots, they had their corners lining up 15 yards down the field. They're 10 yards down the field there late in the third quarter when you only had a 2-score lead. Don't love to see that. But other than that first drive of the game and that drive at the end of the third quarter, the Patriots, they forced multiple 3-and-outs. Christian Barmore had his first sack of the season. Elijah Ponder had a sack today. He had a sack last week as well. There's still some edge issues there, but overall, you're getting contributions from guys like Del Pettis, who had the game-sealing breakup there in the red zone. Jelani Tavai was pretty good against the run today. They continued to crack down on the run. How much did Breece Hall have? So yeah, Breece Hall had 58 yards. That's the most any running back has had against the Patriots all season long. In fact, Justin Fields led the Jets in rushing with 67 yards. But look, when you're as limited as the Jets are offensively, and really all you have, they didn't have Garrett Wilson today. Really all you have is Breece Hall and a decent right tackle. That's really all the Jets have, who's a rookie, by the way, Armin Membu. And the run's coming, and they're going to run it more often than not, and Breece Hall still only had 58 yards. So it's just a testament to how well this team prepares and how the run defense has arguably been the best in the league all season long. But we saw rookie Eric Gregory get some time out there as well, and Harold Landry and Elijah Ponder both lined up as inside linebackers on certain downs. So they're still experimenting a little bit out there. I do think the defense gets a little too cute at times. I didn't love that blitz. That obviously didn't work. Harold Landry has kind of disappeared, the last, 6 weeks or so after really being effective. So I think this 10-day bye that the Patriots are essentially getting here is really going to help them. It's also worth noting they lost Milton Williams very early in the game. He did come back. Again, Greg Bedard was talking about this week. Patriots have had the best injury luck outside of the running back position of any team I've ever seen. We saw last week with I think it was Christian Barmore, went down with an injury. Vrabel goes out there, holds his hand a little bit, goes in the blue tent, looked like a brutal injury. He came back in the game briefly, and then, he had a tremendous game today, had his first sack of the season. Milton Williams, same story, right? Hurt his ankle, was questionable to return, and then was back in the game. Now, he ended up only playing 8 plays, but, if he's able to come back in the game, gets 10 days rest, he should be good to go for the game at Cincinnati. So, Mike Vrabel and whatever Mr. Miyagi thing that he has going on, it's clearly working, but it might be the training staff, right? I mean, the Patriots have a tremendous training staff that a lot of these guys are able to be out there that look like they have serious injuries, and then they just return to the game. Maybe they're a little bit, I guess they're NFL officials that are in there when the players go into the concussion protocol, but it's like when Drake Maye went into the blue tent, he was out there after like 2 plays. I don't know what they're doing. They had the answers to the test. They figured out how to do it, but Patriots have had some injuries, but nothing super major, and the running back obviously has been a glaring hole, but Travion Henderson has stepped up, and hopefully you'll get Stevenson back there if it isn't turf toe or a super serious injury, and maybe Kayshon Boutte will return at some point. Like, as great as Mac Hollins has been, you don't want him getting worn down as the season goes on, because he's gotten a lot of receptions, a lot of targets, a lot of reps over the last 3 weeks, and Kyle Williams, good in spots, right, can make explosive plays, but I think we're probably not going to see real contributions from Kyle Williams until his second year. But good win for the Patriots, 27-14, 12.5-point favorites, managed to cover. I kind of like the Nor'easter rivalries uniforms. I've heard a lot of people say, love to see a little bit more red. I kind of agree with that, maybe in the face mask or somewhere, but they look pretty sharp out there, and scrolling through X throughout the game, just random NFL fans watching the game, they seem to like the jerseys too. I don't think it's an every week thing, but I do like the shoulder stripes. I think if they want a new primary uniform down the road, they could go off of this template and make it with the navy blue and the red and the silver helmets, and it would look pretty good. Patriots, I think, can get new uniforms next year because they chose not to this year. We'll see if that ultimately happens, but I kind of like the regular uniforms, right? They're simple. They're kind of classic looking, but it's nice to roll out these new uniforms, as long as they're not doing it too much. I don't like these teams that constantly have new uniforms, but those look pretty good for once a season. I thought that was pretty cool to see, but 9-2, Patriots now sit atop the AFC standings. Of course, the Broncos play this week, so that could change. The Broncos could be in first place, assuming they win. I believe they're playing the Chiefs, so that'll be interesting. But, it was a short week. There were a couple drops from Stephon Diggs, but only 2 penalties. The Patriots showed a lot of professionalism today. Mike Vrabel, the culture showing, the adaptability, the toughness, the discipline under pressure. And interesting, if you listen to the post-game interview on Amazon, him and Drake Maye both went in with the Thursday Night Football crew, and Mike Vrabel said the 2 reasons he came to New England as head coach was, number 1, familiarity, and number 2, Drake Maye. I don't think we've heard him say that. Now, we all kind of assumed that was the reason why, because of Drake Maye and his potential. But just to hear Mike Vrabel not only say that in the post-game interview, but to say that with his starting quarterback sitting right next to him, pretty amazing to see. I'm glad we have the coach QB combination in New England once again, and I just, if you're an AFC East team, if you're a Bills fan, or you're a Jets or Dolphins fan, just watching New England for 20 years do what they do, and then be like, okay, Belichick fizzled out, he's gone. They have this Gerard Mayo thing. They drafted a quarterback. He was the 3rd quarterback off the board. And now suddenly the Patriots have the leading candidate for Coach of the Year and the leading candidate for NFL MVP. Thought it might happen, but I didn't expect it this quickly. I didn't even think next year. Maybe third year for Mike Vrabel, something like this would happen. But this has all happened very quickly, and we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but right now the Patriots are in position not just to win the AFC East, but potentially to clinch number 1 in the AFC and get that first round bye. And if you watched my last podcast, went through the Broncos schedule, went through the Colts schedule, Patriots are in a good spot. They have much tougher schedules, whereas the Patriots have like a 340 win percentage among the remaining teams the rest of the way. So Patriots just continue to step up. I love the adjustments that they make mid-game, particularly in the second half. They're actually 87. They've scored 87 points to their opponent's 41 in second halves over the last 5 games. And, a little banged up, of course, in the running back room. You hope to get Booty back, but 10 days rest. Then they play a couple more games before they have their bye week, and then you have the Bills and Ravens after that, which is the ideal time. They're going to get some rest here heading into the end of the regular season, and this next one could be tough in Cincinnati, right? There is the potential Joe Burrow's back. He is practicing. I think the Bengals now have like 16 days or so to activate him if they want him to play, or it might be a little bit more than that. So if they do activate Burrow, and I think they probably will, it would either be before the Patriots game, 2 weeks from now, football schedule wise, or the week after that. But even if it's Flacco, he's having a tremendous season there. Know the Bengals can put up points. Still have Jamar Chase. Still have T. Higgins. Defense is a mess, but they have Trey Hendrickson as a pass rusher. He didn't go anywhere. So that could be a trap game. The kind of game where it's great you're getting rest, but hope you don't get rusty. They need to go in Cincinnati and keep rolling and improve to 10-2. But they'll certainly be the favorites. I would expect that. But that's always a tough environment. The Bengals, they keep it close. They always keep it close. They're kind of like the Steelers. They play up or down to the level of their competition. So we'll be here at PatsCast to cover that in the next week and a half. But the Patriots once again win 27-14. If you like this video and you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we'll see you very soon.